Are you wondering how in the world to stay healthy and sane right now? Well, I put together an online course to help you through this tough time where you'll learn how to keep your immune system strong, reduce inflammation, and reset your gut health. It integrates yoga, meditation, whole food nutrition, and herbal medicine. And it's on sale for a limited time. Just go to alyssafinnick.com/stay healthy to learn more and get access right away. And I can't wait for you to begin this program because these are all tools that keep me healthy and sane. This episode is brought to you by Sunbasket, my favorite meal delivery service. It's the one that saved me after I had a baby, and even right now when I have busier weeks than normal. I've tried them all, and this one has the freshest ingredients and most unique and flavorful meal options. You can choose from paleo, vegetarian, and everything in between because I love getting gluten-free and dairy-free and soy-free. If you want to get $35 off and some free gifts, head to alyssafinnick.com/sunbasket and enjoy your first order on me. The belly is the power center within our body. There are over 100 million nerve endings in the belly alone. Yet when you stop and think, when was the last time you touched your belly? When was the last time you had it massaged? Or just allowed someone to touch the softness of your belly without resistance? Tune into today's episode with Dr. Christine Matheson to learn more about why it's so important to tune into our belly and our jaw in order to unlock your ultimate vitality and unravel the nervous tension often held there. Dr. Christine Matheson is a licensed naturopathic doctor since 2001. She is an Arvigo therapy practitioner and a certified Kundalini yoga instructor who helps women have better belly health by transforming their gut, gynecological, pelvic, and fertility health with an emphasis on powerful self-care strategies through one-on-one consultations and online group programs. She is one of the first naturopathic doctors in Canada to have worked in a hospital setting at the former Women's Pelvic Center at Women's College Hospital. Her signature Belly Be Well program combines individualized naturopathic care with the unique benefits of Arvigo therapy, which is an external massage technique to align and decongest the abdominal and pelvic organs, and one of my favorite techniques in the world. Tune in, we'll dive in soon. Enjoy this episode as much as I did. Welcome to the Wild Wisdom Podcast. I'm your host, Alyssa Finnick, and this is your space to learn more about the importance of slowing down, taking care of yourself, and the mind-body connection. And most importantly, how to reclaim your health by listening to your body's innate wisdom and reconnecting with the earth. Well, welcome back to the Wild Wisdom Podcast. I'm here with Dr. Christine Matheson. Thank you for being on the show.
My pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about all things belly today. So Dr. Matheson is she concentrates on what she calls the Belly Be Well program. That's her signature program. And she works with everything we'll just call the belly. And so we're going to dive in and explore this area. It's a very sacred area of a woman's body, of anyone's body, man or woman, but something that we often don't really connect to, and we don't really understand that. But what I like to start with sometimes, or most of the time actually, is what is your story? How did you become a naturopathic doctor, trained as an Arvigo practitioner, focusing, on the belly and helping women through all kinds of things, fertility, pregnancy, digestive issues, all of it. What led you there?
Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me here, and thanks for the opportunity to share my story. It's sort of my belly story too, to be honest, because my belly kind of led the journey. So when I was younger, I definitely experienced some difficulty with digestion and sensitive digestion. And so I felt that there was something that was amiss, but it was until my teens that I really addressed it. And And we went the conventional route with my parents and sort of got the, well, you have irritable bowel syndrome. There's nothing really wrong, but it's not functioning optimally. And it wasn't until later on when I was at university that I had the chance to see a naturopathic doctor myself. And my whole world kind of opened up when I learned more about gut health. And actually one of the first times ever someone massaged my belly really impacted me in a positive way and helped me realize how much tension I was holding in my belly and how much of my nervous system lived there. And so eventually I was actually a women's studies student at the University of British Columbia, getting really knowledgeable about, the objectification of women's body and the need to liberate women from and emancipate them from this sort of a lack of agency in terms of their health, in parts of the world where they don't even have access to healthcare, and became very passionate about that topic, wrote a lot of my papers on women's health topics. And it was really funny because a lot of the people I would interview would be naturopathic doctors or medical doctors. And they would always ask, why aren't you going into the medical field? And I was a hardcore art student, one of those people who never really dabbled in the sciences much, but I humbled myself and went back to university after I'd done my undergraduate degree and did do my pre-medical studies, and then decided to become a naturopathic doctor. It was a huge decision. And so then I was really lucky upon graduating to have networked with an amazing group of women who were starting a clinic called the Women's Pelvic Health Center here in Toronto at a prominent hospital called Women's College Hospital. And I ended up being one of the first naturopathic doctors in Canada to work in a hospital setting with this integrative team of medical doctors. And it was there that the genesis of the Belly Be Well program happened, because I was teaching yoga for belly and pelvic health, and I was integrating my naturopathic care with patients who would literally come out of surgery and need support, post an endometriosis surgery, or, women who had severe pelvic pain that we couldn't figure out why. We were trying to get to the root cause of it. And so I really, at that time, got exposed to the idea of Arvigo massage. And that really opened up my world. So for those who don't know, Arvigo massage is this amazing abdominal massage technique, which you both learn how to do on yourself, and you can receive treatments as well. And it comes from Belize, from the Mayan healers, who believed that if the woman's uterus and belly were congested or misaligned, it would really affect her overall health. And so that's why now I integrate the naturopathic care with the Arvigo massage. And because I was also a yoga instructor in Kundalini yoga for years, I also intertwine yoga poses and chanting and things like that if I feel it's appropriate. And in my own journey, I found the Arvigo massage so healing. It was amazing. When I was a teenager, I used to intuitively put my hands on my belly, but I didn't really know what I was doing. And then when I learned about Arvigo massage, it was like finding my tribe. Here's these people who know how to do this really effectively. And so now I really feel that the work that I do is obviously helping women physically, but it's really unraveling a very vulnerable place in their body. And we know now from science that there is a second brain, a high concentration of nerves. I call it the belly brain. But most of us are really bound in that area. And my job is to help them unravel that and unscramble what could be holding in that area for them. And, it reminds me of Brene Brown's work, because it really takes courage to be vulnerable and to express that. So, there are moments where I just have women really open up emotionally about what's going on in their life when we start to release the tension in their belly. And the other day I had a patient who was in tears because she said, I've always had to hold in my belly. I've always had this focus on how it should look, but not how it really feels. And it's like I'm peeling off these layers of tension that have been there for a long time. So it's extremely rewarding. And I'm so excited to now be, being able to do the Belly Be Well program in more virtual ways. I'm creating courses to share what I've been doing one-on-one with clients. So that's my next step in my journey.
Well, wonderful. Well, I don't think people realize how much tension we carry in our belly. Wherever in our belly, and you can clarify this if you'd like, but we're talking the entire belly. So the abdominal area and all the organs, the pelvic bowl, that sort of thing. So, I like that you share that it's the belly. Let's think of the belly.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because I feel like there's such overlap. And when I worked at the Pelvic Health Center, it was very clear from, working with within the same room, we had a gastroenterologist, a urologist, a pelvic floor physiotherapist, even dermatologists for women who had gynecological, dermatological issues in the vulvar or vaginal region. And we had psychotherapists and people all trying to work together in a holistic way. And it really was important to me to name what I do to encompass everything. And the belly does encompass the gut health and digestive health, which is really the first place most people need to start to make sure, even if they don't have symptoms, to make sure their microbiome or the ecosystem of their gut is super healthy. And even if that is addressed, making sure the functionality of the gut is healthy. And a lot of, I would say like 80 to 90% of people report having digestive issues. So whether it's bloating, gas, constipation, all those things can be, really assessed. And we really, as naturopathic doctors, like to look at the root cause always and the core imbalance. So that's been really exciting. And so I feel like you're addressing the digestive health at the same time when you talk about the belly. You're able to talk about the pelvic floor and the uterus and the bladder and everything that's connected to that area. We have all of our vital organs in the abdomen. So even the liver, the spleen, when you do the massage, it, crosses over. You mentioned you're trained in Thai massage. There's other world wisdom traditions like shiatsu that also start with the belly and unravel the tension from there. And all of those meridians or pathways, energetically, if you look at it from that more Eastern perspective, are connected to, potentially where their imbalance is. So if we can undo some of that tension, it feels so good. And I mean, literally that is the response. I got like, oh my gosh, I had no idea I had so much tension here. And learning to do this self massage is just amazingly helpful for me. I mean, I've had in the last 2 weeks, I've had a patient reduce her bloating significantly just by learning to relax her belly and release some of the emotional and nerve tension there. And I've been working very much with many patients who try to conceive and using abdominal massage. So very happy experience to do that. Just recently had a patient find out she's pregnant. So it's always super rewarding. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Well, you mentioned when we were talking before about, many people don't realize this. They might when they come see you or someone who does work like you do. But the relationship between the tension in the jaw and the tension in the pelvic floor or the pelvis in general. Can you dive into a little bit on that just so people can understand? Because oftentimes people are maybe more aware of the tension in their jaw. Or, as we were discussing, they might go to the dentist and the dentist is like, you're grinding your teeth. And they're like, I am. Well, it could be coming out at night, that, that stress we are holding on to all day. And then your body's like, well, we're going to let those teeth grind at night or that sort of stuff. But people aren't as in tune or seem in my experience, maybe not as in tune as the tension in the pelvis itself, but the reflection of the jaw, that connection. Do you want to dive into that?
Sure. And I know you've had so many great interviews with all sorts of people who are interested in the pelvic floor and therapists themselves and experts in that area. So this is something that many people within the pelvic health world know, but I love making sure every woman knows this because I didn't fully know this. And I wrote a blog about it, and it's my most popular and most read and, engaged blog post, which is awesome. And what happened for me is I remember seeing an osteopath many, many years ago. And I think I was going in because of symptoms that I was feeling in my hips. And immediately they started working on my jaw. And I was like, I know osteopaths don't, they work in a global way, but I was like, I was a very inquisitive patient. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
tell me why you're working there. And then I understood from them that physiologically, the pelvis and the jaw are very connected. And it happens in our early fetus production, like those two parts of your body are very close. And then as we grow, the spine separates them as the spine grows. And so structurally, they're quite similar. And so what you'll notice, and this is really easy way to think of it, if any of your listeners have given birth or are pregnant and are getting coaching to prepare for labor, one of the things they talk about for laboring women is to relax their jaw, to make sound, to sing, to release their throat, because we know that helps relax the cervix and allows labor to go more easily. So there's great knowledge when we talk about it in that context. But the thing that I noticed in all of my intake forms and doing my intakes, having a conversation with women, is they would often say, I have to wear a mouth guard at night, I grind, and they wouldn't see the connection. So I started to tabulate it, and I was like, oh my gosh, 95% of my patients are reporting some type of jaw tension, whether it's been, treated or being treated with a night guard or whatever. It was amazing to me that they had never been taught that there could be a connection with their pelvic health, because you need to remember, of course, they're coming to me for their belly health concerns primarily. And so why we hold that tension is a whole other discussion. Why do we hold it in our jaw? And we need to look and explore what's going on there. It's just similar to the fact that a lot of us hold our tension in our belly, but it may be just another really common place for people to hold their tension. So doing the work that I do through belly massage, I really have to remind people about relaxing the jaw too, whether it's learning from their osteopath how to massage the jaw. Face yoga is also a really amazing technique. Singing, making sound, and seeing a holistically minded dentist potentially to have an osteopath or part of the more integrative team work with you to release some of those patterns that might be building up, because it could be really not only important for your dental health, but your overall health. And if you can relax that area, it's going to help with the pelvic floor and with the digestive health as well.
Well, definitely. So my experience with the jaw, a friend of mine is a craniosacral therapist and occupational therapist, and she does mostly pediatrics, but I went to see her because she's trained in prenatal craniosacral and infant craniosacral. And she was like, can I do some intraoral work? And I had seen intraoral work done on horses. And it was then that I was like, I need some craniosacral. And because we were shown the difference, and I thought, that was very interesting. I remember just touching the horse and was like, that was interesting. The fluid moved and it shifted and that sort of thing. So she did some on me, and I knew, I've held tension for a long time. I knew that, but I was like, is she digging her fingernail into my bottom palate?
I know. I've had that too. It feels intense. I know.
Yes. And I'm like, oh my God. And she didn't have any fingernails. And,
that's how tight the muscle is. It's like a rock, right? That's, I find that it always brings me to tears, actually. Like it makes my eyes tear because it's intense, but it feels so good after. And it also kind of is a wake-up call. It's like, wow, if that's so tight, wow, I must be holding tension in other places that I'm not sure of.
Exactly. But I mean, it's very important, if someone has access to intraoral workers, oh gosh.
It's a little intense. Yeah, it's a little intense. But if you do it with the right person, it can be really valuable in unleashing and unraveling, as you said, draining the fluids in that area. And it really does make a difference in your pelvic health too, because it has a ripple effect. So
definitely.
Yeah, a lot of this work is pretty, intimate too. I mean, you have to feel comfortable, and that's part of what is a real mainstay preface in my work, because it is pretty vulnerable work to put your hands on someone's belly or to teach them even to massage their own belly. I always remember one of my first patients when I early on in my Arvigo massage training, she looked at me and she said, like, I don't even touch my belly. I don't even let my husband touch my belly. Like, this is sacred. Like, I have so much pain here. And what was so interesting for her is that we started slow and gentle. And I'll never forget it because I met her just before she got married, and she emailed me, and she never thought, I think, that she would get the results that we were getting. And so she was sort of apprehensive. And so we were working on it for about 6 months before her wedding. And then she went away on her honeymoon. And I got an email literally from a patient on a honeymoon saying, I think I might be pregnant, and I can't even believe this is happening because I didn't even barely could touch my own belly 6 months ago. So we had done all this work, and to this day, she's one of my most loyal patients, and I do the work because she knows how incredibly beneficial it was for her.
Oh, well, I mean, so I'm a huge fan of Arvigo therapy, which for everyone who's listening, we might have talked about it as Mayan abdominal massage in another episode. It was Dr. Rosita Arvigo who trained with Donna Lehio and he allowed her to document everything and kind of pass it on, and she created trainings. And now we have this gift that is spreading all over the world and not just in the hands of shamans and beliefs. So I'm really thankful because I love the thought that the uterus is the second heart of the woman. It's just so beautiful to me. Yeah. And I had Arvigo therapy. When I first did it, I did it for about 2 years, and I didn't do it intentionally to get pregnant. But when I look back, it definitely set the stage. By releasing tension, allowing any traumas to release, that sort of stuff. And I remember my friend who does it, it's like, your uterus is all sparkly now. And and just setting the stage there. But it's just, and I've also done some postpartum things with her too, and closing of the bones and that sort of stuff. But it's just so important to go into that area, and yeah, it is a vulnerable place, and that's why it's important to have someone who's trained as a practitioner who can provide that sacred space, so that someone can be comfortable enough to allow those things to flow and shift and move and let go. So
yeah, I'm so glad you brought it up. I feel like the fertility piece is such a journey that a lot of women are on, because in their mind they're ready to conceive and they're excited, but there's got to be an alignment between the mind and the body. And so there's sometimes really incredible moments in my interaction with women who are ready in their mind, and they come to me, and then they're really holding back. There's something when we start to peel the layers a little bit, they'll say, I don't know if my body can do this, and I'm a little nervous to be a mom, and I'm not sure how this is going to go, and I've always been a late bloomer, and all this stuff comes up. And so by doing this work, we're not only moving the energy of the uterus, and as you said, like preparing it to be glowing or preparing it to revitalize. I like to think of it like a little bit of a uterine awakening, right? It sort of wakes up the circulation and decongests the area and stimulates the lymphatic flow in the area. But yeah, I remember a patient specifically who sort of lost a little bit of faith in herself, and within about 3 months, she was able to get connected to her body through this self massage and to realize her body was actually really wise and that it had a lot of the answers. And she did get pregnant, and it was such a joyous process for me to witness, and for us to share in, and to have her succeed in reaching her goal. But yeah, I really talk about it as a flowing piece. Like, a lot of women don't have a flow in that area. And yet, preparing to conceive is like at the marathon of your uterus's life, right? It needs to prepare. So we need to really give it the support and guidance. We can't just sort of expect it to happen quickly. And then, and just like in your last episode, you're also wanting help recovering. You almost have like a uterine identity crisis postnatally. Everything's a little bit shifted and changed. And so the Arvigo massage, once you've had time to heal, is really useful for realigning and bringing your uterus back into a healthy place as well.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why I've done Arvigo therapy postpartum, because it was definitely very, very helpful for me. And I agree for every woman. One of the things that while you're talking about, especially the woman you just mentioned who messaged you on her honeymoon and was pregnant. So, and the whole thing of not touching your belly. So this is interesting conversation, because with my daughter, like, she likes to, and my belly's way different than, before pregnancy, and it is what it is. And, I'm doing self-care things to just help my body come back to balance. But my daughter loves to blow farting noises on my belly and my arm, and I just let her. She loves to lift up my shirt and pat my belly, and I just let her, because I don't want her to think that her body is bad. And but what I notice is my mom, like, she tries to do it on my mom, and my mom's trying to be comfortable with it, because she's not. And
she just didn't grow up that way.
No, she didn't grow up that way. And so it was funny, because my mom and I were lying in bed, and my daughter was in the middle. We were trying to get her to take a nap, and I wanted a nap too. So I crawled in bed, and she tries to lift a shirt on my mom and pat it. And that was when I first noticed. My mom was like, "What are you doing?" And I just lifted my shirt up, and my daughter's eyes go, "Whoa, a big belly."
So beautiful.
And we just laughed so hard. And I'm like, let her have fun with it. Let her explore. And then she'll know that her belly's, perfect just the way it is, no matter what.
Exactly. So, and it really is, it is just another part of the body, but it's a really key area of the body. And so that's why I get really sad when women have had so much holding in that area or constriction in that area through, if you're looking at any fashion magazine, every belly is tight and taut and or like constricted with a tight belt. And we want to liberate that area and make sure it's flowing. And I can't tell you like how many times women will say, "Oh, I've been always taught to suck in my belly." And like every photo, I'm like, the first thing I think of is, what does my belly look like? But they aren't really thinking about how their belly's feeling, And so they've basically been developing a guarding pattern in that area that's, really clams up in certain situations. And we know now that there's, such a high percentage of nerve endings in the abdomen. It's astronomical. And so if we now acknowledge that that's your second brain, they call it, your gut brain, we need to unteach that area to hold your worries and your stress, because it's going to impact not only digestion and urination, but menstruation and fertility and all of the pieces. Your menstrual cycle is one of the greatest telltale signs. I think I always call them monthly messenger. It tells you like what's been going on for the last little while. And if things have been off, your cycle will be off sometimes. So if your self-care is a little off, your sleep or your nourishment and how well you're eating or exercising, sometimes your cycle can be a little bit different. So, and that's the neat thing about the Arvigo massage too, is it's a daily connecting to yourself as well.
Yes.
And, and beyond that, like, well, as I said, as a naturopathic doctor, if I'm also helping women through the naturopathic care, which consists of the nutrition and herbal medicine and looking at, the mind-body connection and looking at managing their stress level, getting the pillars of their good health in place, sleep and exercise and nutrition and managing their stress, looking at environmental links to their health, all of the whole naturopathic piece of my work. If we're doing that groundwork, we're kind of healing from the inside out. We're changing the terrain of the body. But what was missing in my practice until I also added this physical therapy is that there was all these outer physical constrictions that were being held in the belly. So now I love the idea that there's a therapeutic sweet spot that happens when you start working from the inside out at the same time as you work from the outside in to break down any constrictions in the body. And you find this beautiful synergy that happens. And what I love especially is teaching people self-care techniques so that self-care becomes their health care. You know, they need me less and less and less. And, you know, I even have patients who've left where I am based in Toronto, Canada, and have all these techniques that I've learned them both naturopathically in the Arvigo massage, and reconnect with me years later because they're back in town visiting family, and we have another session, and they're like, I've been following these principles that you taught, whether it was castor oil packs or the Arvigo massage, or using a stool to squat when I'm going to the bathroom to have better bowel movements. All those things become part of the stacking of habits that really give them this like opportunity to live in an empowered state of health. I think the other piece, which I'm sure I've heard certainly weave into your other conversations, is, you know, not coming from a fear-based approach in terms of your health, but coming from an agency, like a reclamation, like I've got this, I can do this. I've got lots of wonderful techniques at my fingertips. And I love that your daughter is blowing on your belly, and that there's a celebration of the body, because that is what it's all about, is freeing up and having that feeling of self-love. And if we can teach that early on to all children, girls and boys, it's going to help them all feel stronger. And it's amazing how easily it creeps in. As I said, you know, as you said, your mother's generation, like the other generations can say things to your younger ones, and you're like, no, don't say that.
Luckily, I will say something to my parents if I notice it. But luckily my she's been around me enough that she's starting to be, you know, better with that. But it was just something I've noticed actually in the last couple months when my daughter started doing that. But I will tell you, you know, blowing on my belly or wherever on my body leads to a ton of laughing. Like, I mean, just giggling, which is just amazing. So, you know, I recommend it to everybody.
Well, laughing is great for the belly too. And that, you know, that feeling of release, and being a yoga instructor as well. I'm glad you sort of brought this up, because the other big piece that came very clear in doing work with women around their belly health is so many women do not know how to breathe deeply into their belly. You know, they're chest breathers, and they haven't connected with their breath in a very deep way. And so often, actually, before I even get to doing any other self-care technique, we start with the breath. And I know it's so fundamental, and people might be listening and going, yeah, breath is important. But like, are you really, really breathing deeply? Like, I have to catch myself a lot and really remind myself. And, you know, just learning a few simple techniques to make sure you're breathing deeply. We know that stimulates the vagus nerve, which actually really helps with digestion and with your pelvic health. So there's actually grounded science in that, which is so exciting. And, you know, a lot of the practical strategies for relaxing your body stimulate the vagus nerve, which we know really helps with the functionality of all of your abdominal organs.
Yes. Well, and, you know, one of the things as a yoga therapist, I've noticed or being a teacher in general, sometimes people will learn just to move their belly muscles and not actually breathe into the belly. It's very interesting. And you know,
foreign. It's like it's foreign to them. I remember early on in my practice too. You can see this in kids, unfortunately. You have to be careful too. I had a patient who had the mother was very concerned because there was potential that this child was going to be diagnosed with asthma. And we started to investigate her, and I really noticed when she was breathing that it looked like that. Like it was like this, like an odd sort of breathing technique that was not normal. Like it was being controlled by, it was not involuntary. And so through the work with her and doing a little bit of belly massage, we realized that, And the mother traced it back to like a traumatic event that had happened. Like, I don't know, there was involving a car or something, like they had like a bumper to bumper crash or something like that. And the child couldn't breathe because she was so scared. And so she had this body memory of holding that tension. So just by teaching this child some deep breathing techniques, we completely realized it wasn't asthma at all. It was something different. So as adults, you're right. Yeah, you're right. As adults, we have had more years in us to learn sort of, contrived ways of trying to do deep belly breathing, which is not truly relaxing. And so we have to be really careful to make sure we're doing it right, which is why it's great to have a yoga therapist or yoga teacher or someone skilled in that area to help you. And I particularly love, because my roots are in Kundalini yoga, is the breath of fire. And the breath of fire is a great way to like introduce connecting your body to your breath and then specifically to your belly. So that's a kind of like a neat way. And I always like to connect the breath of fire first, and then we go to the deep belly breathing because it just awakens their breathing a bit.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Well, so you had mentioned, because my next question would be, how can our listeners, how can every woman out there start to connect with their belly? And I know you said you have a checklist and a mini training. Would that be a good resource, or do you, that we're going to link to that in the show notes? But
yeah, I'd be happy to. It's my top 6 tips for starting to get your belly well. It is at getbellywell.com, and we'll put the link there for you. And that's a great starting point to just put into place. These are things that I found myself repeating over and over, and they are the foundations that can really, really make a big, big difference. And as I mentioned, I will be creating some exciting courses on how to get your gut healthy and doing a healthy gut reset through my Belly Be Well program online, which I'm excited about. And I'm also creating a flowing fertility formula for my Belly Be Well patients who are looking to conceive, and not just patients. I want to reach people beyond Toronto through my online courses. So I'm excited to be able to provide that very, very soon. So I have wait lists for those that I can share with you too, for people to save their seat and get signed up.
Well, great.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Any final thoughts you want to share with the audience? I know we'll probably have you back on and we'll talk about other things as well. There's so much we can discuss because we didn't totally. I'm glad you mentioned a little bit about what naturopathic medicine is because that's another episode so people can understand that. But any final thoughts for our listeners?
Yeah, well, first of all, I feel like we could chat for about many things, and it's a pleasure again, and thanks for the opportunity. I guess maybe just like a great takeaway from today's episode would be, have you been in touch with your belly? To have your listeners really ask that question today. They might be busy like listening to this while they can't take the time to do that, but at some point, I would love to encourage your listeners to connect with their belly in some way. So if that's deep breathing, by literally just putting their hands on their belly, by asking themselves, like, am I holding my belly in certain settings, or do certain people, when I'm around certain people, does that trigger my belly in certain ways? Because you have a rich nervous system in that area, and starting to be aware of that, and almost learning how to undo that after it happens every time can really be powerful. So I guess I just want to get your listeners to get out of this, that being more aware of their belly could be hugely powerful. And if that's just taking a few more deep breaths a day, or just putting their hands on their belly from time to time, and then, that's the next step would be to explore these things deeper. So yeah, I get in touch with your belly. Be loving to your belly. This is my message for today.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Christine. I appreciate you coming on and what you're sharing. And we'll have links to all of those in the show notes so people can get started in connecting to their belly.
Absolutely. With lots of belly love from me.
So, I want to hear from you. What did you think of today's topic? Direct message me on Instagram or Facebook, or better yet, join the Wild Wisdom Collective, my free Facebook group, and chime in on the discussion. I look forward to hearing your thoughts and insight. And if you love what you're hearing, please take a moment to click the button on your smartphone to subscribe. Or, better yet, write a review and tell me why you love tuning in. And maybe you'll be featured in our listener spotlight on a future episode. I cannot wait to see you again, same time, same place next week. Wild blessings.